Hi, welcome. The What's Right show here, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. I, Sam Mirejovsky, am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Good to be with you, folks. Today, I just want to mention this. A somber anniversary. 5 years ago, we lost Rush Limbaugh, the greatest host of our time, perhaps of all time, and someone who had an outsized influence on me in my life. So, honoring Rush today, missing him more than ever. And, you know, I remember 5 years ago tuning in to the show and hearing not from him or a fill-in host, but rather from his wife, Catherine, who I don't know how she kept it together, but announced his death. And that was just a hole that has been difficult to fill. So I think of Rush all the time, folks, because so much is going on right now that he would absolutely love. It's from the deeply serious, right? From the just for example, everything here now as we're over a year into Trump's second term, and we have finally a comprehensive border policy that's enforcing federal immigration law. Can you imagine how happy Rush is right now, wherever he is? He's up there looking down on us. He must be over the moon. This is phenomenal stuff. Years and years of us being sold out by Republicans who promised us at every election, always promised us they would become the hardest, toughest immigration enforcers. And the minute they got into office, the minute that the exigency of the election was over, it would immediately basically turn into Democrats. Actually, the immigration issue, if you think about it, is the reason that Donald Trump became president twice. It's the defining issue. And it's the reason why all the never-Trumpers in the Republican Party, all these bitter, sad Republican buffoons who still can't admit to themselves that their party that they had is irretrievably changed. It's never going to go back to the country club, everybody wearing little sweaters and hanging out and it's very pompous, elite, club-like party, right? And that era's over. Trump took a sledgehammer to it. And in so doing, by the way, stole a platform from the Democrats. The Republican Party shifted toward what making America great again is, if we have to look at it, is a pro-worker, but not a freeloader, pro-worker, pro-American, pro-border, pro-strong domestic economy party. Anyway, Rush would be ecstatic seeing what he's saying. Now, he also, I'm convinced, would have some fun with the almost the trivial. Like, for example, this came out last night. The Daily Mail did a story on Eric Swalwell. And listen, they didn't do any of the work. The work has to go. There's a conservative filmmaker who absolutely has it in for Eric Swalwell. Swalwell, this is the insufferable congressman who got, tangled up in that Chinese honey trap operation, Fang Fang. Well, this guy's a radical, and he's running to become a governor of California. He wants to replace Gavin Newsom and position himself, mark my words, position himself for a national run. So Swalwell is laying all this groundwork, and there's a conservative filmmaker and journalist, Joel Gilbert, and he is absolutely dead set that he's going to derail Swalwell any chance he gets. So he's going through archives from well, from Swalwell's past, from his college, and he went through. He found some of his early writings. Now, I love this because each and every one of these insane Democrats, if you go back into their history, you realize, number one, they're far bigger radicals than they pretend to be. The great lie of the Democratic Party is that you just can go out there and they're just middle of the road people. They're center left. And when you start to look under the hood, or if you give them unchecked power, they immediately go to the far left. And so looking at their backgrounds matter. So yes, of course, there's all sorts of writings. They're radical writings, typical kind of communist slop stuff. This is from Campbell University. It's a private art school in North Carolina. He attended that school from 99 to 2001. He was an aspiring writer. I'm just going to do it. I can't help myself. He didn't publish it, but he turned it in class, a poem. And it, maybe, Robbie, do you think that he tried these lines on Fang Fang, the Chinese spy? Were these some of the sweet nothings that he whispered in her ear, translated tastefully into Mandarin Chinese? I don't know. Here, I'm gonna read a part of this. It's appropriate. I mean, it's a little kinky. I mean, hung over from Burgundy is the poem. And here's how it reads. And their beauty was formless and magnificent, a flurry of limbs and nails. She chased and I ran. I chased and she ran. By the way, Robbie, is that me too? I guess if it was reciprocal, if they were both pursuing each other violently, it's okay. Anyway, I'm going to read on here. So, atop my hotel, she stopped, and I leapt for cloth and tan. My anxious arm she bit. My scar is beautiful. While I screamed, she bent her lips to mine, kissing till veins imploded and exploded, till blood rolled down our chins, for bounded mouths cannot speak of parting. Look, that's just the first part of it. I'm not going to keep going. It's all, and once it hits the Daily Mail, folks, now it's starting to get some traction. Well, this matters. This is a guy who's a serious contender to lead, as Gavin Newsom constantly reminds us, the fourth largest economy of the world. And Swalwell is, you've got to hand it to him. I mean, he is a Democratic Party mover and shaker. These people are not serious people. And I know what you're going to say. You're saying that he wrote this in college. Okay, well, tell me, what has he done since then that is in any way, shape, or form serious? This is a guy who served on the Intelligence Committee, okay? He had top-level security clearances, is reviewing highly sensitive documents and information. And he is suddenly, meets this stunningly attractive, I think it's fair to describe her, a Chinese woman with ties to the Chinese Communist Party. And it doesn't even cross his brain that a guy like him does not qualify for someone like her. But anyway, and next thing you know, right, pillow talk, back and forth, all this stuff. This guy is such an idiot. And it's, I mean, I think about this all the time with Hakeem Jeffries. I think about it. I mean, who are the leaders of the Democratic Party today? Who are they? We talk a little bit, about 2028. We got into it a little bit last week. The contenders out there. So there's some deeply unserious people. And I know that Swalwell's not running in 2028, but trust me, the run for California governor is a prequel to much greater aspirations. This is how these people, how they look at these things. And I guarantee you, and remember, this is the guy with the shady mortgage dealings too. But Hakeem Jeffries, here's another guy. The pitch from the Democrats is we're supposed to vote for them, where they are supposed to be again like they were back in 2020, the adults in the room. Remember that? Adults in the room. It's time for Biden and the Democrats to come to power because we need to put adults in the room. And so in 2020, there was a sweep. We had Democrats coming into the presidency, Democrats in the House, everywhere. Democrats, and the resulting disaster to our country was immense. And but who is what do we have in the Senate? Chuck Schumer's half dead. I mean, it's not Chuck Schumer, and Chuck Schumer, by the way, could be a serious Democrat to say, no, it's gone too far. Zohran Mamdani is a communist. We are going to secure the border. We are going to meet Trump on some of these issues where we can find common ground. We are going to do voter ID because we believe in voter in election integrity. We are, a guy like Schumer, who is a senior in his party, could lead the Democrats out of this with his experience, with his history. Instead, he's completely compromised himself and done a 180 on most of the issues. Why you listen to Schumer as a congressman in the 90s on the floor of the House of Representatives saying things that are completely opposite to what he's saying now. And this is another point that I have, because the Democrats don't believe in anything, because it's wherever the wind is flying, coming from, and they just kind of lick their finger and try to figure out what the popular moment is or what is politically expedient. This is what explains the SAVE Act, right? The SAVE Act is about political expediency. They cannot afford to have voters prove their nationality because it would disenfranchise a lot of illegal Democrat voters. And or the Democrats realize that some of the people that vote for them are simply too stupid to be able to get a passport or order their own birth certificate. Both of which are bad, actually, just bad across the board. So this is where we're at. We're at the place where in the Democratic Party, you have people like Swalwell, who are a complete joke, Hakeem Jeffries, who can't put a sentence together without looking like his brain just fell out, and the people that actually are intelligent, because Chuck Schumer's not a dummy, and have experience and have perspective, are selling America out because they truthfully don't believe anything, and they're willing to compromise themselves in fundamental ways. Oh, what do you do with that? Where do you go from there? And you contrast it with Marco Rubio delivering that incredible speech last Friday, following up with appearances in Munich over the weekend, and then meeting in Hungary, and now he's going through Europe, right? A series of meetings, and an absolute serious, a fundamentally serious, thoughtful, intellectual, and by the way, value-driven politician. No, folks, I got to tell you, it's just unbelievable to me. Comparing the talent benches, the lineup, the people that are the future of each respective political party, Republican and Democrat, and comparing that. Yeah, here's the polling. I'm polling it out right now. Harris is absolutely dominating the Democratic primary field. I mean, dominating it. The question was, this is a survey just came out. Okay, and this is the INI TIPP poll. It's they did big samples. All right, it's a big survey. If the Democratic primary were to be held today, who would you vote for? Okay, on the Democratic side, 38% Kamala Harris. Well, let's look at the rest of these people. Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, and Josh Shapiro. That's the top four. And by the way, Josh Shapiro, Mark Kelly, who's the astronaut from Arizona, Tim Walz at 3%, tied with J.B. Pritzker. It's fascinating. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at a mere 2%. Now, here's where we are with the Republican field. I think this is the most important point to make, is the Republican field, by contrast, is a lot more interesting. J.D. Vance, 43%. All right. Ron DeSantis. Okay, well, number 2 is Donald Trump Jr. Okay. We'll put a pin in that, right? But then we've got Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott. I don't know. Don't look at me like that. Ted Cruz. I like Ted. Nice guy. He's never going to become president. Okay. And the problem is, I'll tell you, every person I talk to that isn't political, or that's marginally political, but, leans conservative, just doesn't like him. They don't like Ted Cruz. Like my wife will, I say, he's a nice guy. She says, no, I don't like him. There's just something about him that's off-putting. It's not going to be Ted Cruz. But let's be clear. Ted Cruz is not a dumb guy. Ted Cruz is a super smart, competent person. Okay. So you go through this list, and I would say of the top 7 people here, 6 of them are top shelf. By the way, what do you make of this number of Marco Rubio being currently at 5% and J.D. Vance being at 43%? See, I think that Marco Rubio has been doing a lot to shine. I'm not saying Rubio has been explicit that if J.D. Vance runs for president, that he will not challenge him. So just to be clear, that's Marco Rubio has said that, but I'm just letting you know, Marco Rubio's star is ascending in a very major way. And the closer that we get to the election, to the primary, you'll see there's going to be a lot of speculation about Marco Rubio. So don't sleep on him. Now, this is just my point, right? That the bench of Republican talent is deep, and the Democratic field isn't. Much less so. Now, I'm going to take a quick break here, but one of the things I also want to talk about here, and in particularly with today being the 5-year anniversary of Rush passing, have you seen the story about TPUSA clubs getting banned on high school campuses, or schools refusing to even open chapters? I want to talk about this briefly and tell you where it's coming from. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Now, I'm going to get to the TPUSA story, hugely important story about clubs that are being, shut down across the country. But first, I give you a couple of examples here of why Marco Rubio is so exceptional. And this happened last night. This was while he was in Hungary. Look, he's up there with President Viktor Orban, and he's answering questions from the media. And first of all, he's always asked the same. Everybody in the Trump administration, from Trump on down, gets asked the same question. And it's about, Well, it's about, well, are you, if you went into Venezuela, America attacked Venezuela. How, is your country, is the United States doing this in a way that damages its relationships with its allies? And Rubio's answer is always about countries acting in their own self-interest. Listen to this.
Under President Trump, it is our expectation that every nation on earth is going to act in their national interest. That's what nations are supposed to do. If the Prime Minister of Hungary does not act in the national interest of Hungary, he won't be Prime Minister for long. But who's going to act in the national interest of Hungary if their Prime Minister doesn't do it? If your government is not acting in your national interest, then who will? By the way, we feel the same way about America. So in those instances in which our national interest and some other countries' national interests are aligned, that is an opportunity for extraordinary partnership. And we have many, many areas where our national interests are aligned. Where they're not aligned or where we have some differences, that's where that alignment and the other issues, that's where this relationship, that's where these deep ties to one another are so important, because that's where you can find accommodation. That's where you can hear each other out.
But the globalists want one agenda, right? One unified agenda that screws individual countries, let alone individual humans like you and I, citizens of these countries, and benefits the blob. And the people that run it, right, the bureaucrats, the technocrats, they thrive while everything else is dead. And Marco Rubio here is just so good at articulating this, and this is the Trump doctrine. And by the way, it is the new position of the new Republican Party. Now here, just one more clip that's great is he gets asked about, well, this is an American reporter, of course, asking him while he's in Hungary about due process for people who are having their visas shut down. Because what we're doing now in the U.S. finally is if you come here on a visa from a foreign country and you go join an ICE protest or you go, whatever, you engage in absurd bad behavior, you're out because there is no implied right to enter the United States on a visa. Rubio nails it.
I've said this repeatedly. I don't know why it's so hard for some to comprehend it, so let me repeat it again. A visa, no one's entitled to a visa. There is no constitutional right to a visa. Okay, a visa is a permission to enter our country as a visitor. If you enter our country as a visitor, and as a visitor in our country, be it a student, a tourist, a journalist, whatever you want to be, and you undertake activities that are against the national interest and national security of the United States, we will take away your visa. In fact, if we knew you were going to do it, we probably wouldn't have given you your visa.
That's right. And do you know what this stems from? Because I can already hear it now. I already hear that there's, Democrats out there going, well, it's just people at the border visiting America, and you check their social media and they said something mean about Trump. It's Trump's fragile ego, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that long ago that we had foreign agitators coming to our country and they were helping organize takeovers of college campuses, where Jewish students and faculty members, all of course, in the name of Free Palestine, were attacked, were barred from going to class, were physically prevented from being in an institution where they either worked or in which they were enrolled and were paying tuition to. This is where it's all stemming from. We quickly forget why we're doing some of the things now under Trump that we're doing. And everybody thinks it's all about Trump and only wanting to fill the country with if there's going to be foreigners, with fanboys. My point is, don't come to this country on a student visa and then agitate. No state in the world allows this. All right. And you know what? Hey, if you're a lib and you love leftism and you admire, a top-down communist country, go to China on a visa and go protest against the government. Tell me how long that lasts. Okay? Good luck with that. Now, 5 years ago, when Rush passed away, I, like many of you, felt a lot of grief. I still remember to this day the people out there who were elated, who were celebrating, who were saying terrible things, who were saying things that honestly proved only one, that they were horrible people, two, they were morons, three, they'd never listened to a minute of Rush's program. But they said those things anyway. And you and I you remember it as well as I do. Now flash forward, 4.5 years, Charlie Kirk is assassinated. It's a horrible, awful, brutal murder on live television, live stream, just in front of an audience of young people. We don't need, I'm just framing this, being very clear. And the thing that came out of that almost immediately was, one, the attack was politically motivated. The attack was committed by someone who hated Charlie Kirk based on a caricature of Charlie Kirk that was pushed by people in the media, number one, and a lot of other, so-called, liberal influencers. Now, this is a very important point that I'm going to make, because that's the story. And I personally, right, as a human being, not as a radio host, not as a, the host of this program, but as just Sam the individual, I try to not obsess with what people say. And the reason for that is I want to, preserve my sanity. Okay. People say all sorts of horrible things about me. Most of it I find bemusing, and the rest of it I ignore. Now, the problem is that for every person out there who is dead set convinced that Charlie Kirk was actually a bigot, he actually hated gay people, he actually was a racist, he actually said that black people are too stupid to be pilots. People think this, right? People think he actually said that. And by the way, you cannot reason with these people. You cannot, their brains are broken. But for everyone's, there's so many of them out there that in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, a number of students around the country were inspired to found high school Turning Point USA chapters. And there's been a slew of these kids getting denied. Now, right here in Las Vegas, what I can tell you is, and I had this brought to my attention by a family friend who himself had tried to establish a Turning Point USA chapter at a local private high school, Bishop Gorman, and was denied. Now, there's, a little bit more to the story. There's no political clubs, to my knowledge, at Gorman. And apparently one of the things that they came back to him with was, they said they were confused and didn't really know what the club was when they first said that they would have it on campus. But remember, they allowed him to submit the request. And I'm going to find out more about it, but I'm just telling you, it's happening even here in my adopted hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's happening here are some places. Gulfport High School in Mississippi, there was that was shut down there. The Lake County Classical Academy in Wisconsin, the TPUSA club was banned under a no political clubs rationale, but then, of course, they allowed other politically affiliated clubs on campus. That is going to get them in major doo-doo, politically speaking. That's a political term of art. I'm a lawyer, trust me. All right? You can't, if you have a viewpoint neutral ban, if you say no political clubs, can't have young Democrats, can't have young Republicans, you can probably get away with that as a school. If you as a public school say, okay, young Republicans, yes, young Democrats, no. Young Democrats, yes, young Republicans, you're dead in the water. Another high school in Wisconsin, Sussex, Hamilton High School, Clinton High School in Mississippi, New York, West Genesee High School, Tucson Unified School District campuses. Also, they were trying to just wholesale block TPUSA from being on campus. To me, I'm telling you, this is, and by the way, also college campuses are doing the same thing. Everywhere from SUNY to University of Chicago, Loyola, Seton Hall, St. John. So here's where I'm at with this, right? I understand, right? I understand that the left is crazy. I understand that the left is there's some of their brains are just absolutely broken. My problem is that when we allow them to get away with it, when we allow them to slur Charlie Kirk, Rush Limbaugh, whoever, right? But specific to Turning Point USA, specific to Charlie Kirk, when we allow the absolute slanderous, reductive, it's not even reductive, it's just plain slanderous label Charlie Kirk is racist, Charlie Kirk didn't like black people, whatever it is, then all of a sudden we are giving the ammunition needed for these schools to shut this down. And it matters because we've got some midterms to win. And organizing young people, even high schoolers, arguably, who then are able to go out, some of these kids, if they're a little bit older, go out and volunteer in campaigns, be able to, knock on doors and get their families and older siblings engaged. All of this stuff, hugely important. And the left wants to shut this down. The left is coming at us with everything that they've got, because remember, for the left, it's an existential fight for survival. We've got this thing called the SAVE Act out there that is one bad day for the Democrats away from becoming law. And if it becomes law, what happens to the midterms? What happens to the Democrats' ability to steal elections with fake, funny mail-in ballots? All of a sudden, every ballot that it's in has to be proven, has to be shown to be a citizen, has to have documentation supporting the registration. I'm telling you, you've got that. You've got Doge. That still is as a mindset now in this administration of cutting costs. 40,000 government jobs cut in January alone. Every one of those, a patronage, blood-sucking, do-nothing job that existed only to curry favor for and to the Democratic Party. Make no mistake about it. Now look at the welfare fraud, the investigations. See, everything's connected. And one of the things I want to always make clear on this program is not one of these topics exists in some sort of vacuum. It's all intertwined. I spoke to an attorney that's out in California, a former prosecutor in Los Angeles County. That's how I'm going to describe it. A very serious attorney who now is in private practice and does a fair amount of criminal defense. Okay? White-collar criminal defense. Do you know, Robbie, I didn't even share this with you, what his number one call, like if type of case, right? People calling about, anywhere from, he doesn't do a lot of tax fraud, but business fraud, garden variety fraud, does, some sexual assault allegations, all the panoply of criminal charges. The number one call that he is getting right now in California, in LA, are marginal whistleblowers, basically people who are not so much whistleblowing as they are complicit in major fraud, welfare fraud, and in particular, people who have aided and abetted and participated in stealing. It's really what it is. Money for the homeless in California. And the people that are in, and there's thousands of them, okay? The people that were participating in the scheme are now calling lawyers and going, hey, so, if I have some information, would this help me? Like, because I kind of participated in it myself. And this lawyer's not giving me any names. He's just telling me, you wouldn't believe. I'm telling you, he's not a super political guy. He goes, but believe, I think this thing's going to blow wide open in California. And I bring this up because this is another huge existential threat to the Democratic Party. It's real. And what are they going to do? I mean, all they can do is stuff ballots. That's it. That's and agitate against ICE and hope that enough, Renee Goods and Alex Preddy's come forward to do stupid things and win stupid prizes. Have you noticed, by the way, it's been a little bit quiet on that front? Interesting, I think, right? Well, Tom Homan, right? Adult in the room, he's taking care of business and doing it safely, and it's just petering out. My opinion, we'll see. Things can change. But the biggest thing is there is a through line when it comes to Charlie Kirk, slandering Charlie Kirk, slandering his, completely misrepresenting his words. And I would say not even that nuanced of argument. I mean, how many times have I said on this program something very comparable to what Charlie said about black pilots? My favorite example is I always say about the two airplanes parked side by side. One airplane, they picked everybody in that airplane based on merit that's flying it. Captain, co-pilot, flight attendants, all merit-based hires. Second airplane, the gate next door, going to the same place. You have tickets on both. They cost the same amount of money. Leaving at the same time, getting there at the same time. The second plane, everybody was selected based on diversity quotas. That's the information that matters. And Charlie Kirk clearly always made this point. But I don't care. Literally, the point of this, my analogy is, I don't care if there's a black pilot in the a captain, a black captain in the non-diversity airplane. Why? Because it doesn't matter what color his skin is. It matters whether he or she is qualified. And every time Charlie would make this argument, but they turned him into a racist. And by the way, when I would come out or you would come out and support Charlie Kirk, they would say, you too are a racist because you're supporting a racist. And you know why they went after Charlie like this? Because Turning Point USA was the single greatest and remains the single greatest get out the vote organization the Republican Party has ever seen. And they are scared out of their minds about this. That's the story here. And my takeaway is, okay, folks, we've got them on the run, right? And that's why you literally, and this was a school board. I'll play the clip. This was a school board meeting. This was a school board meeting where somebody came to complain about, literally some wacko liberal comes to complain about a TPUSA chapter. Listen to her.
In December of 2025, Turning Point USA hosted an event marketed to high school students with food and beverages advertised as an incentive for attendance. Event materials indicated that adults, including parents and legal guardians, were not permitted to attend and that supervision would be provided by unnamed volunteers. Excluding parents and guardians from a student-focused event creates a lack of transparency and undermines established best practices for youth safety. I am also concerned about a potential conflict of interest involving Board of Education members serving as guest speakers at this event. Students are widely recognized as vulnerable population. They are in critical developmental stages and especially susceptible to influence. For this reason, safeguarding measures, parental involvement, and transparency are essential. All Board of Education members in this room are mandated reporters under state law, as I am. Based on the circumstances surrounding this event, a report was made to Child Protective Services. All of this was provided along with...
Thank you for your comment.
Oh, yeah, thank you for your time. Please shut up. Thanks for reading from your this is probably some Randy, Weinstein, Weingarten, little apparatchik. Okay. You see, this is where we're at. By the way, notice, just like with social media, the left needs a total monopoly on speech. And they recognize this teacher, this hag teacher, because that sounds like shit. I'm a mandated reporter. So kind of teacher speak for, you need to, it's the law. If you're a teacher, you're a mandated reporter. If there's something, happens, you've got to report it. Anyway, my point is they're very aware of how susceptible students are. They've been propagandizing generations of young people. It's what they do. The left knows it. And suddenly somebody came along and dared to challenge their monopoly on indoctrinating young people in this country. And they don't like it. Shocker, right? Well, I think this is going to turn out okay for us. So keep up the good fight. And I'm hoping, I'm hoping Bishop Gorman lets Turning Point USA on campus and to do that. It would be a good move. All right. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. At What's Right Sam on X is where you can find me. And of course, make sure you've clicked to subscribe on the podcast to get updates as these shows come forward and as long-form interviews, extra material comes out.